After the partial collapse of a crater terrace, the volcano on the Italian island of Stromboli off the Sicilian coast starts to erupt, with lava flowing into the sea and triggering a 3-minute seismic signal.
Stromboli is one of the most active volcanoes on the planet, and the Italian Civilian Protection has raised the alert from yellow to orange and advised people on the island to stay indoors. More details on this later in the news. Good evening. I'm CJ Hero.
And I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. And now for the headlines. Tropical Depression Maymay to bring rains over north and central Luzon. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is looking for ways to address the effects of the recent oil price hike. Death toll from the Venezuela mudslides has risen to 36. UN General Assembly holds emergency session on Russian annexation of 4 regions of Ukraine. And Philippine peso bounces back to 58.86 pesos to a dollar. Six areas remained under signal number 1 as Tropical Depression Maymay maintained its strength while moving slowly west-southwestward over the Philippine Sea east of Aurora, Pag-asa said. In its 5 p.m. bulletin, Maymay was spotted 265 kilometers east of Casiguran, Aurora, with maximum winds of up to 45 kilometers per hour and gustiness of up to 55 kilometers per hour. It is moving southwestward at 10 kilometers per hour. Pag-asa said signal number 1 is up over Isabela, Quirino, Nueva Vizcaya, Aurora, Nueva Ecija, and the extreme northern portion of Quezon and Polillo Islands. The Weather Bureau added that people should be alert against minimal to minor threats to life and property. Based on the track and intensity outlook, Maymay is expected to make landfall in the vicinity of Aurora by Wednesday evening or early morning Thursday, but it may weaken into a low-pressure area by Thursday or by early Friday morning as it crosses central Luzon.
The administration's economic team is looking for a solution to address the effects of the recent big-time oil price hike. Eden Santos has the story.
The Marcos administration is reviewing different options to address the effects of the recent round of oil price adjustments. Press Secretary Officer in charge Cheloy Garafil said the issue was discussed during today's cabinet meeting, as well as a proposal to suspend the excise tax on oil products. Today, oil companies have implemented a price adjustments with almost 7 pesos per liter hike on diesel, 1 peso and 20 centavos per liter of gasoline, and 3 pesos and 50 centavos per liter of kerosene.
Sir, kanina sa cabinet meeting, merong discussion about that, pero nag-consider sila ng mga options. And in time, mag-a-announce po sila, I'm sure, ng mga specific plans and programs to address that issue.
Garafil confirmed that President Ferdinand Marcos never stops looking for a solution to address the issue of supply and petroleum prices in the country.
Yes, may pinalabas kami kanina na press statement mismo ng ating Pangulo na itong Kadlaw oil field sa Palawan ay marirevive ang kanilang drilling operation at pinapakita lang nito ang commitment ng Pangulo na maghanap ng mga locally sourced oil products or oil exploration projects para matugunan yung pagtaas ng presyo ng langis.
The cabinet meeting also tackled the sector of transportation as one of the president's priority sectors, where the Department of Transportation presented their programs for maritime and aviation sectors. Garafil said the administration aims to pursue economic recovery and provide livelihood to Filipinos. The official added that President Marcos has directed the creation of a maritime industry development plan to promote and expand the maritime industry and aviation sectors, including arrangements for more cruise ships to dock in the country to promote the tourism industry. The president also instructed Marina to address the problems in maritime schools that do not qualify with the educational quality standards based on international requirements and guidelines. He also addressed the issue of shipboarding requirements for maritime students.
Sinabi ng Pangulo na dapat i-upgrade ang competencies ng mga eskwelahan at ayusin ang training programs to give the students advantage and put them to international standards para mapatuloy ang estado ng bansa na #1 supplier ng seafarers sa buong mundo. Ukol naman sa aviation sector, inutusan ng Pangulo ang DOTR na tutukan ang pag-upgrade ng Manila Airport upang matugunan ang lumalaking demand. Kasama din dyan ang pag-aaral sa mga existing unsolicited proposals para i-modernize ang mga existing airports at i-upgrade ito at magtayo ng mga bagong airport sa iba't ibang lugar sa bansa.
Eden Santos reporting for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
According to the Department of Health, or DOH, it has detected 722 new Delta and Omicron subvariant cases in the country. The health agency said 605 new BA.5 Omicron subvariant cases were found based on the sequencing results from October 7 to October 10. The new report also disclosed 93 new Delta cases. The one case is still being verified. The DOH said 18 cases of BA.4 and BA.5 cases of BA 2.75 were also logged. Additionally, there were 680 cases of other Omicron sublineages, as well as 171 cases of no assigned lineage and one case of other lineage assigned. Based on the World Health Organization's website, the Omicron subvariants under monitoring as of October 4 are BA.5, BA 2.75, BJ1, and BA 4.6. Meanwhile, the DOH also reported that active infections are now at 26,014, while 2,106 new COVID-19 cases have been monitored in the country since Monday. Though it is the fifth straight day of more than 2,000 new cases reported, active COVID cases further dipped from the 26,357 recorded on Sunday. Health officials are still encouraging the public to get their COVID-19 booster jabs to prevent the increase of severe and critical cases.
The Commission on Elections has dismissed the last petition filed to disqualify the candidacy of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Madeline Villar Moratello has the story.
There are no motions or petitions left before the Commission on Elections questioning the candidacy of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in the last May 9 presidential elections. This after the COMELEC-AN Bank uphold the earlier decision of COMELEC First Division dismissing the petition seeking the perpetual disqualification against the candidacy of President Marcos to any position. The group of Ilocanos, headed by Margarita Salonga Salandanan, filed the petition. The group insists that Marcos was already convicted of cases involving moral turpitude when he failed to pay his taxes from 1982 to 1985, but the issue was already resolved in the decision. The AN Bank said the petitioner misinterpreted the Court of Appeals decision, which is final and executory, where it also removed the penalty of imprisonment. And because of that, the COMELEC-AN Bank said they see no reason to reverse the earlier ruling of the First Division. COMELEC Chairman George Garcia inhibited himself from the deliberation as he is a former election lawyer to Marcos. Madeline Villar Moratello reporting for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Malacanang is leaving it up to the court's ruling on the proposal to allow former Senator Laila de Lima for a House furlough. Press Secretary Officer in Charge Cheloy Garafil said de Lima's lawyer should file a motion to the court and the executive will not intervene on the matter. The proposition arose following the hostage-taking incident at the PNP Custodial Center, where de Lima was taken hostage by inmates who are trying to escape. Garafil also said the court will decide if de Lima should be freed based on evidence and merits of the case.
Ang mga kaso po ni De Lima ay nasa mga korte na. So hayaan na lang po natin ang mga abogado niya to make the proper motion. And the President cannot and will not intervene in any case that's already with the courts.
De Lima has been detained since February of 2017 after she was charged with violation of the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2022 during the time of the Duterte administration.
The Court of Appeals has dismissed the motion for reconsideration filed by Rappler CEO Maria Ressa against her cyber libel conviction. Moira Encina reports.
Rappler CEO Maria Ressa has failed to reverse the Court of Appeals ruling upholding the guilty verdict of a Manila court on a cyber libel filed against her. The Court of Appeals has rejected Ressa's motion for reconsideration for lack of merit. Ressa, along with former Rappler researcher Reynaldo Santos, questioned the lower court's ruling on their conviction. The CA 4th Division said they rejected Ressa and Santos' motion to reverse its earlier ruling on July 7 upholding the guilty verdict against the petitioners. The CA said that they stood by the earlier decision to uphold the lower court's ruling. Ressa and Santos was charged by businessman Wilfredo Keng for publishing on their website a destructive and malicious article against him on May 29, 2012 and republished it on February 19, 2014. Rappler's article connects Keng to former Chief Justice Renato Corona, who was then facing an impeachment case. The article also accuses Keng of involvement in drugs and human trafficking, citing intelligence reports. The appellate court said the issues mentioned by the accused have already been resolved. The CA also clarified that the court's conviction of Ressa and Santos does not intend to attack the freedom of the press. Ressa said she is disappointed but was not surprised by the court's decision. Ressa's camp said they would elevate the matter before the Supreme Court. The CA's July ruling also extended the maximum prison time of Ressa and Santos up to 6 years, 8 months, and 20 days. Moira Encina reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Majority of Filipinos consider the spread of fake news as a problem in the country. Vin Pascua reports.
9 out of 10 Filipinos consider fake news as a major problem in the Philippines. Based on the Pulse Issue survey conducted from September 17 to 22, 86% of the 1,200 respondents answered yes to the question of whether they consider fake news as a problem, and 14% responded no. 90% of the respondents said the fake news on government and politics was read, heard, and seen. 68% said they got it from social media, and 67% have watched it on television. 1% of the respondents said that within one day they heard, watched, or read fake news. 26% said sometimes a week. 17% said they encountered it once a week. 25% mentioned once a month. 10% said never heard of fake news, and 1% answered they can't recall. 58% of the respondents believe that social media influencers, bloggers, and vloggers are peddlers of fake news. 40% answered journalists. 37% mentioned politicians on a national level. 30% says local politicians. 15% mentioned civic leaders. 11% answered businessmen. And 4% named teachers or professors. 0.3% of the respondents mentioned their neighbor as a source of spreading fake news. On the question of how they assured that the news heard, read, or watched regarding government and politics is not fake news, 44% said they are sure. 8% said they are very sure. 44% said they cannot tell, while 11% said they are not sure. 55% of the respondents said they are confident with Pinoy's ability to identify fake news. 37% said they cannot tell, and 7% said they are not confident. Based on Net25 News interviews with the public, almost all believed the survey. Most of them said they usually saw fake news on social media, and others said they usually saw fake news on social media, and others said it in their community. How do they feel when they heard or read fake news? Ben Pascua reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
DOH officer in charge, Maria Rosario Vergeira, said a total of 3,729 cholera cases have been recorded in the country since January 2022. At the press conference, Vergeira said the figure is 282% higher compared to the data during the same period last year. She said that in the year 2022, there were only 976 cholera cases. This year, most of the cholera cases reported were from Eastern Visayas, Davao Region, and Caraga. From August 28 to September 4 alone, 258 cases were logged, most of which were from Eastern Visayas, Bicol Region, and Western Visayas. On the other hand, Central Luzon, Western Visayas, and Eastern Visayas have surpassed the epidemic threshold levels for cholera based on the same period. Vergeira said 33 people have died since January of this year due to cholera, 3 of which were recorded in July, 9 in August, and 2 in September. The health agency head said that the most common age group affected by cholera are children aged 5 to 9, primarily due to unsafe drinking water. She said that because of calamities and the rainy season, water systems in the country are always affected, particularly in the evacuation areas. However, Vergeira noted that no local government units have declared an outbreak of cholera cases since the numbers remain manageable. Coming right up, Venezuela mudslide death toll climbs to 36. Israel hails historic sea border deal with Lebanon. And China responds to huge tech threat speech planned by UK spy chief. More stories from around the globe when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
This sport?
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. The number of dead from a landslide in Venezuela now stands at 36. A Las Tejerias resident says it is unknown if there are still people under the rubble after a landslide swept through the city. Neighbors help rescue teams comb through mud and debris for signs of 52 people still missing after a landslide swept through the town. Another 13 people were killed in heavy rains elsewhere in the South American country. 4 died in Central America after Tropical Storm Julia dumped torrential rain on El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Residents of Las Tejerias, some 50 kilometers from Caracas, used picks, shovels, and any tools they could find to dig through a thick bank of mud deposited on the town. Shocked residents say the mudslide came too fast and they had no time, as they say the town is lost. Venezuela's Interior Minister Remigio Ceballos says some 1,000 rescuers are involved in the effort, with the military also deployed. Authorities put up shelters for the displaced in Maracay, the capital of the affected Aragua province.
A UN General Assembly holds an emergency session regarding Russian annexations of 4 partly occupied Ukrainian regions.
The sham referendums in 4 Ukrainian regions, followed by unlawful decisions by the Russian president and parliament, served this very purpose and thus pose an existential threat to the United Nations and its charter.
Feridun Sinirlioglu, Turkey's ambassador to the United Nations, also said Russia's decision to annex the Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia regions of Ukraine is illegal, and it constitutes a grave violation of international law. Hence, it cannot be accepted. Yet the debate on Russia's annexation is overshadowed by strikes on Kyiv. Responding to the issue, Vasily Nebenzia of Russia did not directly address the missile strikes, but defended his country's annexation of Ukrainian regions. Nebenzia insisted that Russia is being accused as a terrorist state when all they're really trying to do is protect their brothers and sisters in eastern Ukraine.
The United Nations refugee chief warns more people will be forced to flee their homes in Ukraine after Russian missiles rained down on Kyiv and other Ukrainian cities. Moscow unleashed the biggest wave of strikes across Ukraine in months in retaliation for an explosion this weekend that damaged a key bridge linking Russia to the Crimean Peninsula. The bridge is a symbol of the Kremlin's 2014 annexation of Crimea. UN says the bombing of civilians, of houses, of non-military infrastructure in an indiscriminate manner in many cities across Ukraine means the war is becoming harder and more difficult for civilians. Since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine on February 24, more than 7.6 million Ukrainian refugees have been reported across Europe. UN adds they expect to see people mainly flee within Ukraine following the recent attacks, which Kyiv said left at least 14 dead and nearly 100 injured. But in situations where the destruction is greater and people can no longer access heat or food, the displacements could last longer.
After the Russian strikes, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky delivered his evening speech from the center of Kyiv, leaving a pledge to Ukraine that everything that was destroyed will be restored.
Зараз по всій країні тривають відновлювальні роботи. Всі об'єкти, які були пошкоджені сьогоднішнім ударом російських терористів, ми відновимо. Це лише питання часу. Я поставив завдання всім структурам нашої держави відпрацювати так, щоб відновлення було максимально швидким. На жаль, 12 людей...
The terrorist attack left 12 people dead and 80 wounded or injured, but Zelensky assured his people that everyone who needed help will receive it. Meanwhile, 43 among 84 Russian missiles launched against Ukraine were shot down, and another 13 out of 24 Russian drones were shot down. Zelensky believes that occupiers cannot oppose them on the battlefield, which is why they resort to terror attacks, and that he is willing to take revenge to make it more painful for their enemy.
Israel said it has reached a U.S.-brokered agreement with Lebanon to settle their long-disputed maritime border, hailing a historic achievement that potentially unlocks significant offshore gas production for both countries. The U.S. text has not been made public, but under terms leaked to press, all of the Karish field would fall under Israeli control, while another potential gas field, Kana, would be divided, but its exploitation would be under Lebanon's control. French company Total will be licensed to search for gas in the Kana field, and Israel would receive a share of future revenues. Lebanon's chief negotiator, Elias Boussab, said Lebanon will get its full rights from the Kana field, and Israel might receive compensation through Total. There will be no direct partnership in gas exploration or exploitation between the two enemy states, he said. Now, the Israeli premier has said his government is committed to exporting more gas to Europe to help replace Russian deliveries hit by the war in Ukraine.
Reports say a drone strike in northern Syria killed a suspected member of the Islamic State group. It was not immediately clear who was behind the attack that came days after U.S. forces said they had targeted IS officials in Syria in a series of raids. Residents say explosions hit near the Turkish-held border town of Tal Abyad in northern Syria. The Britain-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says a drone strike had targeted a suspected member of the jihadist group. The Monitor says the suspected jihadist was killed while on a motorbike. A resident who spoke under conditions of anonymity identifies the dead man as 35-year-old Ammar al-Yeha ibn Ali. Ammar al-Yeha ibn Ali was a Syrian known to have been a former member of IS. Monday's strike comes after the U.S. Central Command says it carried out a raid in northeast Syria on Thursday, targeting an IS official known to facilitate the smuggling of weapons and fighters. In a later statement the same day, it says it had launched another airstrike that killed 2 senior IS members.
Students chant slogans as they protest at Tehran's Amir Kabir University of Technology. Despite a crackdown, activists say has left dozens dead and hundreds more imprisoned. The unrest erupted over 3 weeks ago over the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini. Amini was an Iranian woman of Kurdish origin who died following her arrest by the morality police in Tehran. She had been accused of allegedly failing to observe the Islamic Republic's strict dress code for women.
China responds to an upcoming speech by Britain's GCHQ spy agency chief Jeremy Fleming, which is going to warn the West of a huge threat from China, seeking to exploit its tech dominance to control its own citizens and gain influence abroad. Fleming's comments come as China is in the course of launching its Digital Yuan, raising fears that authoritarian countries could use digital currency to increase surveillance and control. He said that a centralized digital currency could enable China to partially evade the sort of international sanctions currently being applied to Putin's regime in Russia.
你提到的这些说法毫无事实根据。中国发展金融科技是为了让中国人民过上更加美好的生活，不针对谁，更不构成威胁。抱守中国威胁论，挑动对立对抗，既损人又害己。
Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning also said China was worried about the situation in Ukraine after recent Russian strikes left at least 19 dead and 100 wounded. She called upon all parties concerned to properly resolve their differences through dialogue and consultation. She added that China is willing to work with the international community and continue to play a constructive role in promoting the de-escalation of the situation.
After the partial collapse of a crater terrace, the volcano on the Italian island of Stromboli off the Sicilian coast starts to erupt. The lava flowing into the sea triggers a 3-minute seismic signal. Stromboli is one of the most active volcanoes on the planet. The Italian Civil Protection has raised the alert from yellow to orange. It has also advised people on the island to stay indoors.
Next up, Ethiopian president calls for negotiations to end civil war. French President Emmanuel Macron says fuel strikes are no way to negotiate. And New Zealand outlines plans to tax greenhouse gas emissions. Stay tuned. Mata ng Agila International will return.
Kontrobersyal na mga tanong.
Maraming mga kwento tungkol sa mga sexual harassment. Have you had experiences?
Diretsahang sagot.
Importante talaga ang boses ng kababaihan to make people accountable for what they post.
Kasama si Attorney Sal Panelo at veteran broadcast journalist Ali Soto.
Meron ka bang bagay-bagay na gustong sana hindi mo ginawa?
Sana hindi ko ginawa.
Sa Counterpoint tuwing Miyerkules alas 10:30 ng gabi dito sa Net 25.
Ayoko nga sagutin yan.
We are back sa new season natin dito sa masayang Net 25. Dadagdagan na tayo ng host, Yuki Takahashi, Diana Meneses.
Ang mga tara-gamers na maglalaban-laban ngayong gabi.
Sino si Abok?
Hanapin mo na lang yung pinakagwapo.
Ba't parang ayaw mo? wala na ba kayo makuha? Yan, Empoy. Linis-linis ka po na dyan. Empoy, ito po yun.
Bakit po?
I'm your Tara Game Master, Aga Pulak. And this is Tara Game! Agad! Agad!
Level up!
The two chambers of Ethiopia's federal legislature, the House of People's Representatives and the House of Federation, have a joint opening ceremony for the 2015 Ethiopian calendar fiscal year. Ethiopian President Sahle-Work Zewde addresses members of two houses. She says this year all efforts must be put into getting the war that has tried their nation to end in peace. Zewde says the Ethiopian government has stated clearly that it will always keep the door open for peace. She urges negotiations without any conditions, saying that any form of differences may be resolved through discussions.
Peruvian Vice President Dina Boluarte slams a plan to remove her and President Pedro Castillo from office and denies irregularities in her administration. Boluarte also denied irregularities in her management and affirmed before an investigative commission of Congress that there is an alleged parliamentary plan to remove her and Castillo.
Algunos sectores políticos pretenden primero inhabilitar a la vicepresidenta de la República para luego intentar nuevamente la vacancia o quizá inhabilitación y suspensión del señor presidente. No voy a ingresar a un debate político sobre este asunto. Solo expreso ante el país que este plan está en marcha.
Ha hecho llegar con su oficio.
The Subcommittee on Constitutional Accusations of the Peruvian Congress will resolve this week whether to proceed with the accusation of alleged administrative irregularities that seeks to bar Boluarte, a 60-year-old lawyer, from holding public office for 10 years.
Community leader Marco Espinal expresses repudiation of the militarization they suffer as Mapuche people. The protest has been interrupted by clashes with police in Santiago, Chile. Espinal says they gather not to commemorate a meeting, but to express repudiation of the militarization they endure as Mapuche both on this side of the mountain chain in Chile and in Argentina. He says one of the most obvious facts is the militarization and oppression suffered by their sisters in Argentina, detained along with their children.
French President Emmanuel Macron calls on oil groups and unions to assume their responsibilities, stressing that blocking fuel depots is not a way to negotiate.
Le gouvernement prend sa part en mettant la pression pour que les négociations aboutissent au plus vite, mais il faut que les parties prenantes prennent leurs responsabilités. Les entreprises et les chefs d'entreprise concernés et les syndicats concernés, le blocage, ce n'est pas une façon de négocier.
When asked by the press if he fears that France will be blocked, Macron says he is not making a political friction, but he remains hopeful that a solution will be found to address the nation's fuel crisis. Meanwhile, as a strike by workers at energy giant Total Energies entered its third week, French MPs have started reviewing the draft budget for 2023. According to official estimates, around 30% of service stations were out of all or at least some fuel types, causing long queues for increasingly desperate motorists.
A U.S. trio, including ex-Federal Reserve Chief Ben Bernanke, won the Economics Nobel for Research on Banks in Times of Turmoil. Bernanke played a key role battling the 2008 financial crisis.
I invite you to come up and share some remarks.
The jury says Bernanke, together with Douglas Diamond and Philip Dybvig, were honored for having significantly improved the understanding of the role of banks in the economy, particularly during financial crises, as well as how to regulate financial markets. 68-year-old Bernanke has been both credited for spurring recovery after the 2008 recession and pilloried by critics for doing little to avert it, allowing investment bank Lehman Brothers to collapse. He received the award for his analysis, conducted in the early 1980s, of the Great Depression in the 1930s, the worst economic crisis in modern history. Bernanke has been hailed for the Fed's unorthodox response of slashing interest rates and flooding the financial system with liquidity.
From 2006 to 2014, I was involved in a global financial crisis where the problems in the financial sector caused tremendous problems in the real economy, both here and around the world. And this, and thinking about these issues made me very determined to do everything I could, along with my other policymakers, my colleagues, to try to prevent the financial system from melting down. Because there is a very big difference between this episode and the global financial crisis, in that the global financial crisis was essentially caused by weakness in the financial system and by weakness in borrowers. Whereas this crisis was caused by an external event, namely the pandemic. And
Professor Hans Ellegren, Secretary General of the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences, defends the Nobel Committee's attempts to better reflect the breadth of achievement across the world after a season where every Nobel laureate came from either Europe or the USA.
I understand that looks like that, and again, that is because that those who get the awards often made their contributions far back, quite several decades back in time, and at that time the scientific community looked in a very different way than it does today. One must be aware of that we don't really mirror the scientific community as it looks now. We mirror the community that it looked maybe 20 or 30 years back when the seminal discoveries were made. Nowadays,
in a statement, Ellegren explained that they do sorting in the people they message and invite, denoting their broad perspective about ethnicity, geographical origin, and gender. Additionally, if a discovery had shown changes in science in Asia and to many other parts of the world, this reflects how the awards will be given out in the future. The Secretary also pointed out the increase in women's laureates, including half of all laureates in chemistry, as evidence of progress in the field over the past 5 years. This ensures the body is taking every measure to increase the geographical diversity of prize winners.
New Zealand unveiled plans to impose a tax on greenhouse gas emissions from farm animals in a controversial proposal designed to tackle climate change. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said the levy would be the first of its kind in the world.
The proposal as it stands means New Zealand's farmers are set to be the first in the world to reduce agricultural emissions, positioning our biggest export market for the competitive advantage that brings in a world increasingly discerning about the provenance of their food.
According to research, gases naturally emitted by New Zealand's 6.2 million cows are among the country's biggest environmental problems. The scheme would see farmers pay for gas emissions from their animals, such as methane gas in the burps of cows and nitrous oxide in the urine of livestock. Ardern also said that all money raised from charges on emissions will be recycled back into the system to fund further research, tools, and technology, as well as farmer incentives to help reduce emissions. But with New Zealand going to the polls in the next 15 months, the proposal could cost Ardern rural votes as farmers quickly condemned the plan. Some heads of farmers' organizations criticized Ardern's tax scheme, saying it would rip the guts out of small-town New Zealand.
About 500 pilot whales have died in mass strandings in New Zealand's remote Chatham Islands. The government said that Tuesday after ruling out a rescue effort in the area's shark-filled waters. Two sauropods of the dolphin-related cetaceans beached on Chatham Island and Pitt Island, and survivors were euthanized to prevent them from further suffering. The remote islands were far from the New Zealand mainland, which made the rescue operation impossible. Moreover, dead bodies were left to decompose naturally on site. Pilot whales, who are highly sociable, have a tendency to follow pod mates who stray into danger, which researchers believe is the cause of this mass stranding.
Up next, Philippine peso bounces back to 58 pesos and 86 centavos. And TV host comedian Vong Navarro refused to enter a plea in rape case. Mata ng Agila International will be back after this short break.
Isa na namang araw para sa mabentang usapan na punong-puno na impormasyon at saya para sa inyo mga mahal naming mga ka-shoppers.
Siyempre, nandito uli kami ni Sir Jojo A. Para mapakilala namin sa inyo ang mga bagong sellers na magbebenta ng mga kailangan. Kaya naman simulan na natin ang araw ng mga malulupit na product.
Hello, magandang tanghali po. Kumusta na po?
With shopping all the way.
With Jojo A.
Panalo tayo pag together, walang talo pag together. Let's dance together sa Net 25.
Parang kinikilig ka. Crush ko yan eh.
Ano yan?
Pwede magtanong ng personal?
Ano yun?
Kayo pa ba ni Juliet?
Why would you ask that?
May nakakita kasi kay Juliet na galing kina Abok.
Ano yung narinig ko na doon ka natulog kay Abok last night?
I can explain.
The news continues here on Mata ng Agila International. After 2.5 years of undergoing COVID-19 pandemic, Japan reopened its doors to tourists, with officials hoping to attract numerous travelers that will boost the economy. Before noontime, travelers from Israel, France, and Britain were already pouring in.
They're just waiting until the announcement about the border opening, and as soon as I heard it's going to open in the 11th, I started planning. And here I am.
According to some tourists, this border reopening is a long dream come true, and even if tickets are expensive, they are still willing to spend for them to finally travel. Travelers from 68 countries and territories can now enjoy Japan's visa-free entry, but they are still required to present either proof of vaccination or a negative coronavirus test taken 3 days before departure.
The Philippine peso bounced back and closed stronger at 58 pesos and 86 centavos vis-a-vis the US dollar. With some support from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, the local unit opened at 58 pesos and 97 centavos. Its strongest close was at 58 pesos and 83 centavos, while the intraday low was 59 pesos. The first time the peso hit the 59 peso closing rate was October 3.
It may have taken 246 tries, but professional lady golfer Jodie Ewart-Shadoff of England has finally achieved what she's been aiming for her entire career, winning an LPGA tournament. In Samis, California, Alan and Eva Basalyahe with a report.
Jodie Ewart-Shadoff of England is triumphant at the LPGA Medihill Championship. With the victory, Ewart-Shadoff collects a cool $270,000 slice of the $1.8 million pie for herself.
This is the first time that the Brit was able to claim and keep the lead each day. And she's also only the third player this season to have staged a wire-to-wire victory.
I didn't know it was the course record, my first round, until just 20 minutes ago. So I think that's really cool. I really enjoyed playing this golf course. I think it's really fun. You really have to have a good game plan and just kind of stay patient. So I've just really enjoyed my time here. And, as a 54-hole, it's my first time, after 54 holes leading. So I just proves myself that I can do it.
With spectators lining the course, players acknowledged how enthusiasts brought enrichment to their sport.
It's always awesome to have fans out. I mean, just, hearing claps after a good shot is just really gets you going. And yeah, just feeling like I'm back home, being pretty close to USC and seeing a couple of people wearing like USC gear was really nice.
I played with a few nice people in the pro-am and they've been out supporting me the last couple of days, so that's been nice.
To be able to have a good result, you just have to put your peak game at that 1 week. It's not only just how good you are, you need luck and some of support from the fans.
Personally, I love, coming back to California and, the weather and everything is just perfect. And of course, I think it's good for the fan as well. And, it's very nice to see all the fans in California. And, we always get a lot of support when we came back here.
The Sarakoy Club has been around since 1921, but this is the first time that its golf course has been used for the Medihill Championship.
When asked to describe the course in one word, many players remarked that it was challenging.
And while we can concur that the course itself might have been challenging, watching and enjoying world-class play is never a difficult thing to do.
Evan Allen, Somas, California, mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
NBA superstar LeBron James's eldest son, Bronny James, is one of the first or the 5 amateur basketball players who signed endorsement deals with Nike, the sports apparel brand announced. The 18-year-old James is a point guard and shooting guard at Sierra Canyon High School near Los Angeles. Currently, Bronny James is included in the marketing of Nike's newest sneaker, LeBron 20, but there are still no financial deals revealed. Nike sees every player as an individual, which enables the brand to have new ways that can break game barriers, bring people together, build community, and shape the future on and off the court.
Novak Djokovic believes his prolonged but self-inflicted absences in 2022 make him even more super pumped and motivated to finish a year that started with the ignominy of deportation from Australia on a high. The 35-year-old garnered back-to-back titles after swiftly defeating Stefanos Tsitsipas 6-3, 6-4 in the Astana final on Sunday, a week after securing the Tel Aviv trophy. The former world #1 said he could not ask for a better restart of the season because he is already super pumped and motivated to finish the season just like what he did in his past weeks. After his victories in Rome and Wimbledon, Djokovic has remarkably bagged 4 other titles from 10 events this season. Djokovic is grateful and blessed to play well, being a 35-year-old athlete who can move freely around again compared to his experiences being hindered by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Comedian and TV host Ferdinand Vong Navarro refused to enter any plea in the rape case filed by model Denise Cornejo. The actor was arraigned on October 11 at the Taguig Regional Trial Court, Branch 69, which is handling his rape case. He was arraigned via video conferencing, an arrangement that was approved by the court based on Supreme Court rules. Alma Malyonga, Navarro's lawyer, said the actor did not enter any plea during the arraignment. Hence, the court entered a not guilty plea on his behalf, as stated under the rules of court. Malyonga explained that Vong did not enter a plea for legal reasons because they have a pending petition at the Supreme Court. On the other hand, Cornejo also requested to appear at the arraignment via video conference but was denied. Her lead counsel attorney Howard Calleja was in attendance. The actor is facing cases for rape and acts of lasciviousness before 2 Taguig courts.
Selena Gomez is opening up even more about her health struggles. Gomez's Apple TV Plus documentary trailer shows instances that the star is dealing with various issues in years of being in the limelight. Released on World Mental Health Day, this uniquely raw and intimate documentary follows the journey of Gomez that sought new paths to lead herself in a new and brighter light, overcoming her mental issues. Apart from the documentary, Gomez was seen multiple times engaging herself in mental health talks and platforms that focus on ending the stigma around mental health or mental illnesses.
For me.
The art of Pablo Picasso and the timeless fashion of Coco Chanel, great figures of the 20th century who inspired each other, are placed face-to-face in an exhibition that opens at the Thyssen-Born Museum in Madrid. The primary aim of this exhibition relating to art and fashion is to enable all kinds of audiences to learn something new.
Le rapprochement entre Chanel et Picasso est un rapprochement intéressant puisqu'il permet de faire une sorte de focus sur la manière dont Picasso a joué avec le monde du théâtre, le monde de la mode dans ces années très, très précises en fait de son couple qu'il forme avec Olga, donc cette danseuse russe, et qui est un petit peu...
According to Chanel's representative, Chanel and Picasso entirely devoted their lives to the creation of contemporary art, and interpreters of their era grasped the spirit of their time and implemented aesthetic revolution that echoed profound transformations of society. It's now time to take a look back at some historical events that happened on this day, October 11. In 1910, Theodore Roosevelt became the first U.S. president to fly aboard an airplane with Archie Hoxsey, an aviator for the Wright brothers. In 1984, American astronaut Katherine Sullivan became the first woman to walk in space. And in 1987, a 3-day hunt costing $1.6 million, hoping to prove or disprove the legend of the Loch Ness Monster, ended with no scientific proof except 3 sonar blips that showed objects in the middle of the 754-foot deep loch.
And now to help you go through this week, here's a quote from Cormac McCarthy, an American writer. Keep a little fire burning, however small, however hidden. I like that.
Yeah, and never ever let the world or anything around you put that fire out.
And we also have to be realistic, right? Sometimes our dreams have to take the back seat when it comes to our priorities, but never ever make the mistake of killing that fire yourself. Do not extinguish that fire. Your time will come.
No matter how little, it'll grow to something bigger.
And you will see an opportunity in life to pursue that.
There's always something. There's always something there.
And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I'm CJ Hero.
And I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.